Attila. Yeah, that probably just got a reaction from you. Well, okay, well maybe not. I mean, you clicked on the video. You kind of knew what you were getting yourself into. I'm not just walking up to you on the street and saying the band name, and I'm not able to gauge your reaction. But that's kind of what this band is able to deliver in some circles. They are a very love 'em or hate 'em style of group. It's a deathcore band that over the course of this past decade, from the 2010s on, has certainly gotten a lot of fans, but also an impressive number of detractors. For some, this might be their first exposure to very heavy music, or something that seems to speak to their inner rage, and they're able to lash out and do all the things that perhaps that they always wanted to, or say all the things that they wanted to, all those creative little slogans that Attila have definitely placed on t-shirts as well as social media posts. Whereas for others that have been longtime heavy metal veterans, or just those that don't like what Attila does, it's almost like biting into a lemon. It's something that's going to cause that pucker face, and you kind of never ever want to do it again. But for all the folks that happen to love this band and find them to be a fantastic piece of heavy metal slabbery, there are tons of folks out there that also aren't about that life. Let's find out what their deal is. Here's 5 reasons why people hate Attila, bro! And we're going to start with number 5. And number 5 is kind of a simple one, almost too simple. It's one we've heard a lot. It's simply because they are deathcore. Ever since deathcore became a prominent subgenre or subgenre within the heavy metal universe, there has been a large amassing of those that just simply cannot get into the genre. Perhaps they had a bit of a disassociation point with metalcore as well, but whenever they heard deathcore, it seemed like it was not up their alley whatsoever. This is something where they feel that Attila uses the breakdowns as well as some of the other elements of the subgenre entirely too much, and they didn't like the band already considering the designation of metal that they were a part of. But hearing some of the songs and recognizing some of the overusage of those critical components has only made them all the more wary to wanting to listen to another Attila song ever again, and very quick to turn them into some sort of deathcore mockery. It's one thing that you'll see a lot of times on forums that discuss heavy metal bands, and it's also something that you'll see from parents that are a little bit concerned about people that listen to the old chugga 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 music. Uh-oh, it's like Satan's coming through the speakers. Number 4, they just don't get it. This is an odd and perplexing one that I've seen quite a lot whenever doing a little bit of research for this. One of the biggest reasons is simply that people don't get Attila. They don't understand what they are all about. And I'll explain this very briefly. Attila is a band that is not really meant to be taken very seriously. They're a group that likes to go out and cause a ruckus, cause a scene, be a little bit destructive, have a lot of fun, and that's sort of their perspective on music. That's their perspective on what they do. They aren't taking themselves all of that seriously, and they are really willing to experiment within their own sound on some of their albums, especially on their most recent release, where they even dabbled a little bit into hip-hop/rap territory. So basically, this is a band that's a little bit free-form. So why don't people get it? Why don't people understand this? Because the way in which it's executed, I think, is where they kind of get that drawing line point. It's where they seem like, or where it sounds like, the band's taking themselves way too seriously. The message is actually conflicting with the actual idea of not taking yourself seriously. It sounds as though they're trying way too hard. And based off of that, it has caused some folks to not feel very strongly toward the band. Either that, or they just don't simply like the idea of fun in music, I guess. Either way, whether you get it or not with this band, that's not going to be something that's going to be an easy selling point for some individuals. There are a lot of folks that do get it, and do really enjoy it, and Attila's not necessarily hurting for fans, so if you don't get it, it's not like some sort of big slap on the face, or, kick in the junk. Number 3, horrid lyricism. This is another thing that seems to bring out the old pinky up in a lot of people. It's the fact that Attila's lyricism leaves a lot to be desired. Since they're just all about having fun and being destructive and saying whatever they want, you can hear rampant F-bombs being dropped. You hear a ton of swearing and, fuck yous and this and that toward women or toward men, toward their girlfriends, toward their boyfriends, toward their face, toward whatever, and it's just lyricism that leaves a lot to be desired for many individuals. They obviously want to hear something more within their music, whether it's heavy metal or otherwise, and feel that this sort of lyricism is simply not something that they want to expose themselves to on a daily basis. They find it to be either too offensive, either that, or it just seems really juvenile. One of the largest counteracting opinions to this is that this is what sometimes we say in our minds without actually speaking it, and Attila simply is vocalizing the things that we, very often have within our heads, but our mouths are too scared to utter the phrases and the sounds. Well, you know what I have to say to that? I have to say, fuck that shit, say whatever the hell you want. I like my cat a lot, he's my friend. That's what I'm thinking in my mind right now. I'm not even thinking about what number 2 is. I probably should, considering it's coming very quickly in this video. Oh yeah, by the way, number 2 is that it's basic and generic songwriting, and this has changed a little bit as time has worn on, but people still feel that this is a staple of Attila's sound. They feel that with deathcore, that the sound and the overall construction of these tracks is not one that has a lot of kinesis to it. It's instead one that has a lot of the same simplistic elements that are bridged together in order to form individual tracks. And as we have talked about once already, Attila has decided to experiment a little bit more with other sides and other species of music in order to try to give it a little bit of a boost and a bump, including on their last album with that hip-hop little excursion, which actually was pretty well executed. But still, deathcore has carried that simplicity, that whole idea, in the minds of many fans of music for a long time. And it's something where you're almost guilty by association if you happen to be in a band that has that label to it. But also, based around that secondary notion, these are folks that want a lot more kinesis within their sound, maybe based around some flowing guitar solos, either that or the execution of some keys or other instrumentalization. Perhaps they want something a little bit more than the same basic construction, which obviously might mean that deathcore simply isn't for them. They simply want something that has a lot more density to it, but then again, we're also living in a generation that will, be perfectly fine with listening to each and every single pop song that it sounds exactly the same, and somehow, some way be able to divulge some sort of difference between all of them. It doesn't make a lot of sense. However, this is something that affects a lot of people and makes them not want to talk about Attila or even examine them, or perhaps have examined them and notice that that simplicity is a little bit more than desired. But that brings us to number 1, which is the most interesting, perhaps, of all number 1s or all reasons ever since this series began, and that is the bro culture that supposedly surrounds Attila and the idea of wiggercore. Now, remember my phrasing, you heard the letter W, I hope. But that is the number 1 reason. They have an association not only with deathcore, they have an association not only with basic and generic songwriting or bad lyricism, and people, of course, just don't get it, but that's because they also think this is a bro culture band. This is one of those groups that you would expect somebody in a, in a sleeveless t-shirt and a pair of tap-out shorts to listen to while they're going to the gym and trying to get nice and buff for the ladies, bro. While they're drinking their Monster Energy drink or their Muscle Milk, which is actually not all that bad. I kind of like it. Then this is something that has gained that affiliation. It's gained that ideologue. It's kind of weird whenever you realize it, because it seems like this is music that only certain elements of society enjoy, and that's simply just not true. Now, the idea of wiggercore, which is just blowing my mind, is simply based around the fact that they have embraced a little bit of that hip-hop notion, that they do sometimes opt to rap sometimes on their song. That's a lot of usage of the word sometimes, but these are occurrences that have happened on some of their songs, and it's caused this sort of associative dissociation and this breakpoint for some folks. There have actually been fans that have decided to slide away from this band ever since their debut album, simply because it seems like they're not embracing that hardcore and heavy direction at all times and at full tilt anymore. They're actually maybe becoming serious musicians sometimes. There's that word again. And now, I don't know what I'm going to do, bro. It's weird, because you see some of these types of people, you see that bro culture or that cultural idea manifest itself, and it seems to be true, but then it doesn't seem to be true. It seems like there's distance that's occurring. It's the weirdest thing ever. But based around this association, it's one of the most commonplace elements that you're going to find from those who are detractors of this band. If it isn't because of the music itself, it's because of the people that supposedly listen to this band, perhaps not necessarily those who actually do. Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. 5 reasons why people aren't about that life. 5 reasons why people don't hate or don't like, they hate Attila. Wow. That was awful. 5 reasons why people hate Attila, and this was made possible thanks to the 50/50 Streamathon, Streamapalooza, that's been going on over on the coverkillernation stream page, whatever you want to call that. It's all for one-of-a-kind pets. It's a 50/50 Streamapalooza with great incentives available. You're seeing that on the screen right now. I'm hiding my face because this outro's been terrible. If you want to get involved with this, there is a link for you to donate. And also, you can come out to the streams whenever we are having them. We hope to see it there. One of a Kind Pets is the reason why we're doing this great facility in Akron, Ohio. That is a salvation for dogs and cats that were previously on death row to be euthanized in other facilities. They are taken to this facility and given a second chance to be adopted, to have a freaking great life, man. To be about that life, about that pet life. It rules, man. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. My name is coverkillernation. If you think there's another band that needs roasted, toasted, and burnt to a crisp via the 5 Reasons series, let me know about it in the comments below, and I'll talk to you next time. Take care.